WhiskyJason here, whiskey from the viewpoint of an American in Germany tasting rare and exotic whiskeys. Today I'm in Scotland. Once again, I have a single cask here from Signatory Vintage, selected by Cask Import here in Germany. This is a Highland single malt Scotch whiskey distilled at Macduff Distillery. Aged 11 years, sherry but matured, distilled on the 4th of June 2008, bottled on the 24th of October 2019. The world was once again back then absolutely in as it should have been back to normal. And the cask is 900347. Outturn is 526 bottles. So that's the way it looks. Nice dark color. Germans love this at the moment. The darker the color, the higher the price you can get for your whiskeys. All right, so Macduff is not a distillery we hear a lot about, to be very, very honest. Bacardi owns them. Bacardi has their own little company in Scotland, and there it's called, I'm going to read from the Bible, basically, the real Bible. John Dewars and Sons Limited, Bacardi. It was founded in 1960. And if you look here at the nice little book, they don't use Macduff, but they rather use the word Deveron. Deveron is the bottling that they use here. We have the 10, the 12, the 18-year-old, which is very, very interesting. 1993, Bacardi buys Martini Rossi, and that is actually then transferred Macduff to the subsidiary from John Dewars and Son. So what they do have is 2 wash stills, 20,000 liters. That's pretty big pot stills, and then they have 3 weird constellation spirit stills with 12,500 liters each. They use a steam heating system, not direct, but steam, and they produce up to 3.4 liters of alcohol a year, basically for the blend industry. Very, very few of this stuff actually makes it up into the market. Now, I would have never, I'm going to once again say this, I would never have bought this bottle. But I actually have a group of my super fans. Those are people who support me either through Patreon or through the YouTube membership. And 2 people asked for this bottle. And the reason I would never have bought it is this. 63%. I love bourbon over 60%, but I'm not a great fan of single malts over 60%, to be very, very honest. But that's just me. All right, so I'm going to compare it to my favorite bottle of the month. This is Signatory Vintage as well. This is Edredauer. This is a vintage 2012, 8 years old and only 48.1%, also in sherry. What we have here are 3 sherry butts, and we have 3 bourbon barrels that they actually mixed together and created. And this is fabulous. I just love this. Really just hits my spot. This tickles. This is my wheelhouse. This just tickles my fancy, and I just really, really like it. All right, whiskey base number 144888. As I said, 2008 distilled and 2019 bottled. So this has been on the market for over a year, and it hasn't been sold out, or it's not sold out yet. 526 bottles do help. A sherry butt is a little bit bigger than a bourbon barrel. And it goes for 65 euros, basically, which would be 80 some dollars US. So let's nose this. Took me a little bit of a moment to actually decipher what's in here. I'm getting an espresso type of mocha moment. The sherry that's in here is not a sweet sherry. If I nose this one, this was just in a first fill sherry butt. It doesn't say Oloroso, but this is sweet. This is almost up to the point where it's tart. It's an espresso mocha type of sherry. And that's my question of the day. I've had a few whiskeys where I was like, oh, look, we have the coffee beans, we have the espresso moment, we have the mocha moment. Could you name a few of those that you've had that actually have that expression? Now, my biggest problem is I'm not a coffee drinker. I don't like coffee. And so this is not my wheelhouse. Now, this is a very well-made whiskey. Now, the 63%, wait. The more I drink it, the more evident that coffee moment just is turning out to become there. It's a little too hot for my personal preference. So I like to drink the whiskey. 52% would be like, oh yeah, yeah. I think it was also Booker's that said 107. If you do 107 proof, 53.5%, sweet spot. And also with Scotch whiskies, anything above 55% gets a little bit hot and takes away from the enjoyment of the whiskey, for me at least. Other people enjoy the cask strength, enjoy the 60+%, but I'm not really a big fan of that. Hmm. There's basically nothing wrong with this whiskey, except that it has a lot of that dark chocolate, almost espresso mocha moment. Hmm. Well done, well done. Now, if I go over here, and I'm going to try this in a moment, this is so much more sweeter. I had the discussion with a friend of mine the other day. Stefan B, if you actually watch this video in English, I'd be surprised, but hey, he watches my German videos more. He actually commented that it was a wonderful whiskey because it wasn't sweet. And I wrote back, but I like sweet whiskeys. I'm a bourbon guy as well. Bourbon, that wood, that gives the sweetness, gives the vanilla, just gives that wonderful moment there. And he says, but does a whiskey have to be sweet? And I was like, well, no, but yes. And this with the combination of the sherry butts and the bourbon barrels, 3 sherry butts, 3 bourbon barrels, first fill each. It has the sweetness in there that this doesn't even have. Mm, mm, mm. This is like the 12-year-old. No, it's an Edward 10-year-old. I bought a bottle of that at the very, very beginning of my whiskey journey over 4 or 5 years ago. And I remember each evening I would sit there maybe once or twice a week and pour a little glass and just sip on it and just really reminisce about that flavor and just acquaint myself with this. And this is exactly almost the same thing, but it's the volumes turned up. If the 10-year-old from Edinburgh, back then the tiniest distillery in Scotland, no longer the case, um, would be like a 6 on the volume, this is like a 9. There's no distortion yet, but it's very, very loud in your mouth. Mm. Now, if I go back to this, what I actually get is a tartness that I did not have before. An estrogens. That doesn't sound right. A tartness, a bitter moment, sucking all the juice out of your cheeks that I did not have unless I compare the two. And sometimes I don't recognize that something is tart unless I have something sweet to compare it to. And sometimes I don't realize that something's overly sweet unless I had something that's a little bit salty, a little bit tart, or a little bit umami. Mm. Now, I can really, really get that people say, hey, this is absolutely my wheelhouse. This is like a light milk coffee. Um, I don't like coffee. That's my problem. I'm going to give it a solid C plus. This is actually much better than I thought it was going to be. Kirsch had a little bit of a problem one year that they went to the warehouse and it was November or maybe it was September or October, who knows, but it was Scotland. It was 50 degrees outside and probably 48 degrees inside. And they tasted the whiskeys, and whiskeys at 48 degrees taste different than they do at 78 degrees Fahrenheit. So if you taste something at 25 degree or 20 degrees Celsius, or you taste it at 10 degrees Celsius, it's a different ball game. And some of these whiskeys, they can go through the whole warehouse and say, I want that barrel, I want that barrel, I want to try that barrel, I'm going to buy that barrel, I'm going to buy that barrel. And they do. And they just come back to Germany. They have maybe 10 or 20 barrels a year that they just actually here bottle for Germany exclusives. And so they have the relationship, they have the buying power, they have just the distribution possibilities. And this is a whiskey which I am surprised that it's still on the market. It was a year old now, 500 some bottles. It should have been gone by now. Apparently, some people also are not a big fan of the mocha moment, or Macduff is such a silent secret. We can't say silent, such a sleeper, such an under the radar type of distillery that they just said, nah, nothing comes good from what Macduff. No, no, no. Is it Back to the Future? No. So Deveron doesn't have a great reputation either, so I can understand that many people didn't even try this. Shame on you. Shame on me that I haven't tried this beforehand. And thank you very much for my whiskey super fans that actually recommended that I buy that. All right, thank you very much for watching. Please like, please subscribe, please tell others about this crazy guy over here in Germany tasting rare and exotic whiskeys, often whiskeys you'll never ever see, because they're single cask, because they're very exclusive, because they're very rare, because there's not many of them on the planet. But somehow I get my fingers on them and do videos about them and review them, and it makes me feel happy that I can share these whiskey videos with you, because that's my goal. If someone else has done a video about it, I just did a review in German of the Glengarry 18. It's not an 18-year-old. It's actually an 18-year-old from 1990, the wine cask. Whiskey in the Six, Rob did a video about it. I can't do it anymore. So that's my rule. If anyone else has done a video about it before me, okay, I don't do the video. If I'm the only one that's ever done a video, hey, I'm going to do the video and enjoy doing it. Thank you very much. Please like, subscribe, tell others, maybe even share this video on social media, maybe Twitter, maybe Facebook, maybe someplace else. That'd be great and very, very nice. Instagram is always a good thing. Always hashtag WhiskyJason. I'd appreciate it. All the best. See you soon. WhiskyJason here. Bye-bye.